What's up, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Ben the NFL week number 17. As always, I'm with my co host, Derek Wesley, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Not much, just another week trying to make the folks a little bit of money out there.
Absolutely. Hope everybody had a great Christmas. We're gonna try to win all that Christmas money, all that money you spent. Gonna try to win it back for you, um, while trying to win some money ourselves with our bets this week. But before we do that, we got to recap what happened last week. And as always, we will start with the favorites. Straight up, they went 10-6, 150, 88, and 2 overall against the spread, 8 and 8, 101, 131 and 8. Home teams, pretty even as well. Straight up, they went 8 and 8, 128, 101 and 2 overall. And then against the spread, again, 8 and 8, 104, 133 and 2. So we got no really sway either way. It pretty much was all evened up, whether it was against the spread or straight up on favorites and home teams. So not really a trend either way on those two things. But we did get a little bit of a trend here with the over and unders. A lot of unders hit, not many points scored. The over and under went 6 and 10, with the unders having the edge. And then they are overall 104, 134 into with which obviously the unders have been hitting for most of the year, and it showed mostly in this last week here. So, any thoughts on what happened with any of these trends?
It is getting late in the season, and usually the books do begin to get a little bit sharper. Those numbers get a little tighter. There's more data to input. You've had the whole season to see how some of these teams have performed in similar circumstances. So it can get a bit challenging trying to find easier plays or what you might more consider a sure lock as we get later into the season.
All right, man. Now we will get to the biggest upset of the week, and that came on Christmas Day with the Green Bay Packers plus 3.5, plus 165 on the money line at the Miami Dolphins. Final score was Packers winning 26-20. And the Dolphins been up and down all year. They've had a win streak, a losing streak, and now they've lost four straight games with the defeat to the Packers, who were holding on to their playoff hopes with that win. And the Dolphins into it, they got off to a good start. They went up 20-10, but then it started to go downhill from there. He was getting the ball to Waddle and Hill, who both went over 100 yards. But it seems whenever he suffered that concussion, that's when his performance started to go down. And it seemed like it really affected him. He threw three interceptions in the second half. The Packers defense really stepped up big time in the second half by shutting the Dolphins out and causing four turnovers. And Aaron Rodgers and the Packers offense didn't really have to do that much. They just did just enough to get the job done and pull off the upset. But the Packers starting to get on track while the Dolphins starting to do well. But we'll see how these teams do going forward. But what did you think about this game?
Um, it was a game where if you watched the first half, it was very promising if you were on the Dolphins like I was. And unfortunately, something we talked on a lot last week, you got to play both halves. You got to deliver a full game in the NFL, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. If you don't play all four quarters, you can lose in the NFL. It doesn't matter who you are, who you're playing, who's on your roster. It's just that simple. And, in the first half, the offense was clicking. They were moving the ball, they were putting up points, it looked like the offense that the Dolphins hoped to construct at the beginning of the season when they brought in Hill. You know, they may have not come out publicly, but they put their foot down that Tua was their guy. And in this game in the first half, that's what you saw. Everything was working. They was moving the ball. Everything was beautiful. And unfortunately, in that second half, I don't, it, it's hard to put it all on Tua, but the interceptions were horrible passes. I mean, just, it's that simple. y- Even from the camera views we had, you're scratching your head going, who is he trying to throw the ball to? Because he either sailed it on one guy or underthrew it on another guy, but it's clear that there wasn't a wide receiver there. I know on one pass specifically, you can tell he floats the ball, and unfortunately in this game, a big reason why they lost were the turnovers by Tua in the second half. And, a team that like the Packers that are scrapping for every last little hope to make the playoffs, you can't you can't give them an inch because they're going to come for your yard because that's what hope does to some of these teams.
Yeah, definitely. Packers have a little bit of hope there. They need some things to happen for them, but they're looking pretty good in the recent weeks. So we'll see what happens this week for them. But now we got the largest cover against the spread, and came in the Buffalo Bills -8.5 at the Chicago Bears. The final score was 35-13, and Bears got to an early lead, 10-6, and I thought with the win and the cold, that would really affect the Bills' offense, and that's why I picked the Bears. Because I thought they would keep it close, with the Bills. And then, but in the second half, it was just a totally different story. The Bills scored on the first drive and scored again when the Bears fumbled. The biggest problem for the Bears was Fields just couldn't get going on the ground. Like it's based, their offense based a lot on his ability to run the ball. He couldn't really do that. He only had 11 rushing yards. And then on the other side, the Bills were able to rush very well with their running backs. Which is a little bit different from what they've been doing. But Singletary got going for 106 yards. Cook got 99 yards, and as a team, they rushed for 254 yards and 3 touchdowns. But the Bears just weren't able to keep up like I thought they would, and that just led to a 28-point victory for the Bills.
Yeah, looking over some of the stats from this game, offensively with Chicago, it wasn't necessarily a bad passing day out of Fields, but it clearly seems that the Bills coming into this game was win at the line of scrimmage. They have one of the top defensive lines, a number of people they can cycle in and out, even with taking a loss like Von Miller. Not that they can replace him, but the next guy up in Buffalo is probably better than the next guy up in a lot of places across the NFL. And, you know, Fields was able to complete a number of passes, but it doesn't seem like people were able to get downfield, likely saying that, they were giving that underneath stuff and making tackles. And when you can squat down on that run game and stifle it with a team like Chicago that's going to have to lean heavily on the run to have success offensively, a team like Buffalo, they can match you in that run game. And if you can't stop Buffalo, they've proven they'll walk the ball down the field and punch it in the end zone.
Yeah, um, definitely this one hurt with my picks. So I was on the Bears and just didn't happen for me. But now another game that didn't happen for me was the bad beat of the week, and that came in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers -4 at the Arizona Cardinals. Final score was 19-16, and this one was definitely personal for me. It was the lone game to ruin my 10-team teaser parlay that I had, and I lost it by just 1 point. Um, and it was extremely frustrating
Hold
to
up,
watch Tom
hold up,
Brady throw
hold
two
up.
interceptions.
I, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
folks. This is the bad beat of the week, not whatever took place in an NFL game. Our man Caleb. So, you know, it sucks when it happens, but
yeah,
th- ju- in a sad way, it is beautiful though because my man was on to the point where he literally was off by 1 point out of 10 games. I'm just saying
yep.
that's a little bit of skill right there.
That one hurt. That's what I'm saying. It was just like I said. It's just frustrating to watch. Brady just throw two picks in the red zone, or at least they could have got two field goals, and then they allowed the Cardinals to take a 10 point lead, and it just wasn't a bad beat for me. It was a bad beat for those who had the Cardinals on the money line, because they had a good lead on the Bucks. The Cardinals turned the ball over twice, let the Bucks score twice, tie it up, and they take the game into overtime. Cards got the ball back. The Bucks and they did nothing with it. But then the Bucks go down. They kick the game-winning field goal. So pretty much all around, it was just a bad beat for me. For anybody who had the Cardinals on the money line, um, just not good. That game the game was terrible to watch. Even though it went to overtime, it was a bad game. So yeah, just terrible all around. But what are your thoughts on it?
I was watching this game, and from an offensive perspective, it was definitely a bit painful to watch. Um, you know, if I'm not mistaken, at some point, oh, I can't remember the line, but one of the commentators, he basically looked, or they had the camera focused on the field, but he literally made the comment like, it's 6-6. I'm doing my best here. Like, how much stuff can you find to talk about in a game that's, 6-6, 13, like, there was no scoring in this game. Both offenses look pretty awful. I mean, Tom Brady's and he's able to go out there sometimes and find success, you know, in what might seem like just a load of crap, and that's kind of what this game was. They kept giving the Buccaneers and Tom Brady a chance, and honestly, that's the worst thing you can do. I don't care what team he has. If you keep giving him chances at some point, he's going to put it in the end zone. I mean, it's that simple. They're going to find a way to put up points. And as I said, this game was painful to watch. And you give somebody that's known to be the greatest of all time chance after chance, they're gonna they're gonna succeed. I mean, that's the one thing you can't do. If you play Tom Brady, rule one is keep Tom Brady off the field.
Yeah, like I said, it's terrible for me to suffer through that game, but was what it was. You get bad beats like that sometimes, and you move on. But overall, for my picks I made for my other parlaying for this show, not good. One of my worst weeks of all time. Uh, Pretty terrible week. Went 1-4 on my picks this last week. And that puts my record for 38, 39, and 3 overall. But my one lone pick was my obviously my best pick, which was the Bengals at the Patriots. Final score was 22-18. Um, and it looked like an easy 0, but the Bengals just started to make a ton of mistakes, and they allowed the Patriots to slowly crawl back into the game. Then it just made me start to sweat a little bit. And I was worried I might go winless this week, and the Patriots found on the Patriots final drive Matt Jones just couldn't get it done, which saved me from having probably one of the worst gambling weeks of my career. But my worst pick was the Lions -2.5 at the Panthers. And I just didn't see it coming. I just thought the Lions were playing really well. Panthers have been playing better recently, but I didn't see them just completely just running all over the Lions. They ran for 320 yards. Foreman 165, Hubbard with 125 yards and a touchdown. And the Panthers just completely shut the Lions run game. And the Lions were up 31-7, so it kind of just allowed the Lions to pass the ball after that. That's the only reason why they got some yards through the air. But the Panthers still have a shot at the division title. But Lions have some things to fall their way to make the playoffs. But that was my week. How did your week go?
It wasn't too successful. I believe I was there with you at 1-4 on my picks for the show. I was able to hit on a couple teasers, so able to recoup that. Um did hit on my Panthers prop play that I've been doing weekly. Um Sort of just started out as a thing between me and the Pops, and it's kind of been a good season. Basically a $50 bet every week. And if they make it to the playoffs, I might be buying a couple playoff tickets to a home playoff game because they only getting in if they win the division. So this week seals the deal pretty much. I know they got to win against New Orleans in the last week of the season, but I definitely believe I don't want to say there's a gimme game, but they can go out there and beat the New Orleans Saints, I believe. Uh, so the real question is, can they make it through this week as they take on the Bucks? Because as you said, against the
And
Detroit,
before you,
go ahead. What were you saying, Caleb?
Yummy.
Yeah, I got you.
No, I said, but before, I asked you like a few weeks ago that whether you would take that Panthers to because they had odds. They had some value, a little money on that.
Like I said then, me personally, I wouldn't have put money on them to make the playoffs because it meant it meant other teams had to lose and play poorly. This wasn't so much directly controlled by the Panthers playing at a more than expected level, in my opinion. And so, yes, the possibility exists. I wouldn't, sit here and say it was impossible. Um, but yes, if you were somebody that a week or two ago jumped on, a prop for the Panthers to make the playoffs, you were probably looking at a plus number. I wouldn't be shocked if it was somewhere around maybe plus 175, plus 200, maybe even a little higher if we're talking a couple weeks ago. Um, but yeah, so it's going to definitely come down to this week's matchup because if they can do like we saw against the Detroit Lions, they recorded the most offensive yardage in franchise history. They had the most rushing yards in franchise history for the first half. I believe they also set the rushing franchise record in this game. The Panthers' offense, yardage wise, went off in this game on the Detroit Lions. And I think maybe a lot of people were expecting points, but maybe not as big a blowout as this got because the Panthers got up big early. I mean, this game wasn't ever really in doubt as far as the money line. And so, I was able to cash on my prop in the game with Jared Goff going over 21.5 completions. Them getting down by double digits early led to, you know, I don't think it was necessarily excessive pass play calling, but needing to come back, needing to get big yardage. You're not leaning on the run as much. They're already a team that isn't necessarily a run heavy team. They do use the run game, so I don't want to make it seem like they were, just a pass team. But being able to get over that number, it was a decent week. But as you said, somebody that got on that Panthers to make the playoffs a couple of weeks back, they got a good little sweat going on going into these next couple games.
All right. Now we will get into our bets for the week. Before we do that, we like to help you guys out. If you guys can help us out by liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you have not already. You can also, if you really want to help us out, you can join our Patreon. The link is in the description down below. And join whatever tier that suits you, whatever you would like. Um, so yeah, go ahead and do all that. Our picks for the week of week 17. And I'm going to start off with the Cleveland Browns at the Washington Commanders. Commanders are -1.5. And, the 49ers. Niners are a really good team. They kept it close for a while, but they just couldn't get it done. And, obviously the Commanders are having some questions at quarterback. They will now be starting Carson Wentz. I don't think that really is going to matter in this game because the Browns just don't have the offense that would score the Commanders. Watson, since he's been the starter, they failed to even score multiple touchdowns in the game. Um, they are coming off a loss to the Saints, in which Watson threw for less than 50%, 135 yards and 0 touchdowns and an interception. And the Commanders have a good rush defense, so I think they'll be able to contain Chubb and Hunt, which will force Watson to throw the ball, which is not going to be good for them. I believe this spread is small enough that they just need to win. They have more to play for. They have the playoffs on the line for them, and the Browns, already eliminated. So I like the Washington Washington Commanders to lay the points in this one.
I'm actually on the other side of this game because a big reason I cannot back Wentz starting for a team, especially one like Washington, who you would think that if you got better play out of the quarterback team offensively, this team could be on the verge of being called dangerous. Um, the return by Brian Robertson has been rather remarkable. Anybody that takes a couple bullet wounds and is a productive, if not substantially productive member of their team at a position like running back, don't mess with this guy, folks. If you see him and he's mad, get out the way because this is a determined mf'er who, won't be stopped. And as our man here, Mr. J the Six said, it's a carousel in Washington at the QB position.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be
What's going
shocked
on,
if we
man?
saw a change at the QB position mid game. I mean, this I'm more. I get the feel that the QB position in Washington is more similar to the dynamics of a college team at the rate that we've seen not just different QBs start, but it's the same guys. It's this you know what you're getting out of Wentz, you know what you're getting out of Heineke, you know what you are getting out of these players, and they think, you know, I don't know what they think, but you give me the Browns On the other side of Wentz in this game, yes, Watson has been a bit of a disappointment coming back, but I didn't have too high expectations on him. I do think it will come down to the run game in this matchup between the Browns and the defense of Washington. And I'm going to be taking the Browns +1.
And Mr. J brings up a good point here. That's why I'm on the Washington side of things. Like you said, Scary Terry, John Dotson, E-Rob, and the D line. They have a lot of pieces over there. That's why I said I don't really think it's going to really matter too much of who is starting at quarterback for them. I think they'll be able to overcome it. In the like I said, the Browns offense just doesn't have a lot on their end of things that are is going to beat all this. So yeah, that's why. But we're on different sides on that game. So I'll be on that. That was your first pick, right?
Yes.
Okay. Next, I got the at division. One team has been playing a lot better than the other. Uh, you know, the Panthers have done it by getting the running game going with Foreman and Hubbard, and the Panthers won 4 of the last 6. Bucks have lost 3 of the last 5. Brady is obviously that's due to his age, injuries on their offense, all that affecting his play. The and the Bucks have failed to score 20 points in 9 of their games. The Panthers have been really good against a spread in the last 6 games, going 5-1. Bucks, on the other hand, been pretty goddamn terrible against the spread all year, 3-11-1 and 0-5 in the last 5 games. So I like the Panthers with the points to cover the spread.
This is almost scary, folks. We're creeping up on the end of the season, and I'm right here with we on the same game again. I'm gonna be riding with the Panthers. You know, as you said, um, even if you go a little bit deeper in their ATS record, they're 7-3 in over the last 10 games. So the fact that this team is getting points, um, your defense is playing better, your secondary is getting healthier versus what it was a few weeks ago. I know Jeremy Chin was back in pretty much full action this past week. Um, I I don't see too many concerns. Yes, Evans is still a threat. Godwin, he's still going to be a threat, but the the Bucks have proven that they're struggling to put up points, and old man Tom Brady's going to be standing back there, and Brian Burns and Frankie Louvu could be a potential prop to look at for this game. I would imagine that you're likely going to find a plus number on both. Um, I know Brian Burns, he's gone over his preseason sack total prop. I believe was about 9.5 to start the season. He's currently at 11.5, I believe. And the majority of this has come in the later half of the season. I'd have to double check. I don't think it necessarily lines up with the coaching change, firing Matt Rule and the defensive coordinator Phil Snow being fired almost simultaneously. Um, it wasn't technically at the same time, but that was the first move of Steve Wilkes as the interim head coach, releasing Phil Snow as defensive coordinator. Um, but yes, most definitely in the later half of the season, Brian Burns has turned it on, and the offensive line for the Buccaneers going into this game is beat up. It's hurting, and it's going to be a liability. It's that simple. Um, Carolina may not have the best D line in the game, but they surely do have some contenders that can get to the quarterback, and it'll be interesting to see what happens this week against Tom Brady. But yes, I got the Carolina Panthers +3.
Mm. Mr. Chase says, I believe that he can break 15 sacks and get paid.
It's a possibility. I mean, that was the big question coming into the season with Brian Burns. Could he get into double digit sacks and at the same time could he do it more by himself? In previous years we've seen players like Charles Johnson and last year Hassan Reddick line up on, well, with Reddick, they didn't necessarily line up on opposite sides of the ball, but utilizing that duo tandem coming into the season, it was a big question. How many sacks and how productive could Brian Burns be in a more solo role on the defensive line coming off the edge?
All right. I'll get to my next pick, and that will be the San Francisco 49ers -6 at the Las Vegas Raiders. And obviously, this has changed. The spread has changed to -10. I think now it is with Carr being benched. The 49ers, with Brock Purdy, have looked great so far. Niners have scored 33 plus points in 3 out of their 4 games. And, I believe they'll be able to expose the Raiders' not so good pass defense, especially it showed up last week against the Steelers. They weren't very good. But now that we have Jared Stidham coming in, it's going to make it even worse for the Raiders. That they're going to face the number one defense in the league, and that's gonna be bad news for him because they're going to definitely get pressure on him. And the 49ers been pretty awesome against the spread, 6-0 in the last 6 games, 10-5 overall for the season. Yeah, I couldn't like the four that, and this is why you bet early sometimes because you're gonna get the benefit of a good number at -6 before it changes later to -10, which what is right now. But I got the Niners -6, laying the points against the Raiders.
So for my third pick this week, the San Francisco 49ers -10. Because, yes, folks, Jared Stidham. It's that simple. The 49ers defensively are going to come in and dominate this game. Not only that, Brock Purdy, who isn't playing top notch, Pro Bowl level type stuff, he's he's doing what you need to do to win as the quarterback of the 49ers. Not make too many mistakes, you know, make simple plays, get it to the playmakers and let them do the work. And that's the 49ers game plan. And I don't necessarily understand. Well, I don't necessarily agree with the benching of Carr for the final 2 games. If it was the last game of the season, I could potentially understand that. But there's clearly a lot of dysfunction throughout this team, whether it's from players, coaching, ownership. I mean, it's sad to say because the Raiders are one of the oldest franchises in I don't I forget where they rank, but the Raiders have been around forever. Everybody knows of the Raiders. You don't even have to be a football fan to know about the Raiders. And so on some levels, I think it's really a shame that this organization has reached the point that it has because it's, like I said, it's rare that you see dysfunction across the board like this at every level. Now, see, I can't recall Armstead, but now
on himself.
I'm having
That- that-
flashes of Raji from the Packers. Oh man, I can't I can't remember his full name, but yeah, yes, Fat Man celebrations are the best. John Madden said it best in the movie The Replacements. You know the best thing about a Fat Man touchdown is first you get the Fat Man spike, and then you get the Fat Man dance. So yes, anytime you can get offensive linemen, defensive linemen, anybody that's got their belly poking out of their jersey as they run to the end zone, I'm all here for it. More of it, please.
All right, I got my next pick, and that will be the Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers. Packers are points three minus three. I think the Vikings have played with fire one too many times this season, and I think this is where they finally get burned. They need a 61 field goal to beat the Giants. Packers seem to be on a roll. They've won three straight. The student defense playing better in recent weeks. They held their opponents to 20 points or less in each of the game those games that they've won. And if Aaron Rodgers is going to get his first 300-yard game of the season, this is the game to do it. The Vikings are probably the worst passing defense in the league, and the Vikings are not good against the spread. 2-4 in the last six. They are 6-8-1 overall, and the Packers are 4-2 against the spread in the last six games. So I like the Packers at home to get the win over the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes, I'm not on this game, but I would have to lean towards the Packers. I'm not sure what the current point differential is for the Vikings, but I know a few weeks back it was -1, which basically, if at the time I heard a statistic, it was the worst point differential ever this late in a season by a team, and I believe in first place of their division. Um, but either way, it when you hear people talk about this team being a fraud this year, that's the type of stuff they're talking about. Like, how have you won so many games, but yet you're not beating teams by a lot? You know, you're sneaking by. Um, in other sports, a big thing that's looked at times is you know, 1 point, 2 point wins, things like that. More commonly, you see or you hear about stuff like that in basketball, but sometimes that can help give you a better evaluation of a team. And if you have a team that is just barely squeaking by, a late touchdown might be enough to get you inside that 3.5 points. And, you know, an inconsistent team like the Vikings, I definitely would have to take the points there. Going into my next pick this week,
Yeah, Miss
because
J sets.
finally
I can
we're
see A
not
Rod
on the
involved.
same
Unfortunately, the
game,
Vikings.
but yeah, all right. Now, it was a team we
All
were
right, there we
talking
go.
about
Go ahead.
earlier. Uh, we were talking about the Lions, how they, we it looked like they were turning things around. I'm gonna be riding with the Chicago Bears as they take on the Lions. We saw, you mentioned it, I mentioned it. The Panthers ran wild over the Detroit Lions. It was, anything they wanted. It was cake all day long. Where it didn't matter the play call. And I think we see a lot of that. I would not be shocked if we see a large portion of design runs for Justin Fields in this game, but do expect for the Chicago Bears to try and utilize that run game to take an advantage. I'm I'm not sure if they may win this game outright. This could get into a bit of a shootout. We did see the Lions try and come back a little bit last week, just running out of time in the game, more or less, to continue a comeback. Um, and so I think it could be a very close divisional game, and getting +6 with the Chicago Bears, I think is just too big a spread to give. You, I mentioned the Vikings being a fraud. Defensively, the Lions are a fraud because that offense has at times put up, staggering amount of points, and it was the defense that kept them from the winning the game. So give me Chicago Bears +6 points.
All right. Um, yeah, I'd probably be on that side as well. I just didn't feel that great about that pick, but I do have the Buffalo Bills at the Cincinnati Bengals plus 1.5. I like the Bengals getting points here. With the top 10 rush defense, I think what happened last week to the Bears won't happen this week to the Bengals. The Bills won't be running the football on the Bengals. They have a much better rush defense. And I think the Bengals can force Josh Allen into a couple mistakes that sometimes he has show up in these games. Joe Burrow and Bengals, they have a lot of offensive firepower. I think it'd be a lot for the Bills to handle. And I love a home dog, and there is no better home dog than the best team against the spread in the league, and that is the Bengals at 12-3 overall and 7-0 in their last 7 games. And Buffalo's been pretty bad against the spread, with a 3-6 record in their last 9 games. So I like the Bengals at home getting points.
I think, at first glance, common thought might say jump on the Bills in such a close game. But as you just said, you know, the Bengals are hot. And the one thing in betting you try and do as much as possible is get on the trends while they're hot. And my man just listed it off. I mean, you heard it straight from the man's mouth. I'm not on this game, but if I was, I'd have to take if you're getting the Bengals plus a point, definitely jump on that. The book I'm looking at currently has it at straight up as a pick 'em, which again, common logic would say the Buffalo Bills should be favored in this game. So if you're able to get something under 2 points straight up in a pick 'em, I think you definitely got to take the Bengals in that because they're still fighting for those playoff hopes. There's a question of maybe how much do the Bills, how hungry are they? I don't think they're necessarily too concerned about seeding. I think their mindset may be more focused. We know the people that we're going to have to go through to make it to the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter where we're playing, home, away. Um, so I think this could be a bit of a trap game with the Bengals taking on Buffalo. And to
All
go
right.
into my last pick this week, it's another team that at times has shown flashes that maybe they were turning things around from where they were projected to be, and that's the Jacksonville Jaguars as they take on the Houston Texans.
Your final
And
bets.
yes, uh, but the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be taking on the Houston Texans -4.5. I'm riding with the Jacksonville Jaguars as the Texans have just not been able to figure out anything offensively this season. Um, and I mean, in a lot of ways, I think a lot of people expected them to end up in a position where they were going to be having the first overall pick, and that's pretty much what's occurred. In their last 10, they're 1-9. You know, the Jags don't come in too impressively looking at some of the things. One thing that does stand out, both wins for the Houston Texans came on the road this season, and they're playing at home. Now, the Jags have been a bit of a pain on the road, but I honestly don't see Houston being able to put up enough points to keep up in this game and potentially seeing a score somewhere around the lines of maybe 28-13. So even if things finish closer, maybe the Jags only able to manage, say, in the area of 20 points. I still like what their defense will be able to do against this lackluster Houston offense.
Yeah, this game scared me a little bit because it is a divisional matchup, and we've seen how that has gone for the favorites all year. Another thing, I mean, Houston did just get a win, and the Texans beat the Jaguars, I think, in their last matchup. So all that kind of kept me away from this game. Even though I did like the number at 4.5 for the Jaguars, I think they definitely can score enough to cover that. It's just in these type of matchups, anything can happen, and that's what kept me away from picking that game on the Jaguars side. But yeah, that is our bets for the week, and that will be our show for this week. If you have any questions, just leave them down in the comment section below, and we will get to them on the next episode of Bet in the NFL. But for now, you can tell the people where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, I run Backyard Action Media here on YouTube. I'm also currently even trying out my hand at TikTok, giving people daily plays, currently doing a lot of NBA action as far as daily, but also putting out a couple NFL props as we work our way through the week. Uh, you can find me there on TikTok at the same name, Backyard Action Media. You can also find the official Twitter account for BAM uh, on Twitter at the Yard Bets.
All right. You can find me at NFL Caleb 22 on Instagram and Twitter. You can find my articles that go along with this show on our website. That's let'sgetreadynetwork.com. And you can find me on this channel with on Mondays with Ferris McDonough. We do Good Friends, Battle Rivals, and we talk Cowboys and Giants. May not have a show this week. Ferris got something to do. But we'll be back um, soon. Whenever he's back, and we be talking Cowboys and Giants again. Um, and obviously, both looking like we're going to playoffs, so definitely have lots more Cowboys Giants content for you for as long as our teams are going or keep winning. But for now, thank you all for watching this show. Like I said, all we like to do on this channel is make you guys money, and we're going to keep doing that all the way to the Super Bowl. But for now, like I always say, let's get ready to make some money.